Lesson 18, Vishuddhi Chakra. Vishuddhi Chakra is the throat chakra. It's the fifth chakra from the bottom. It's also the highest chakra of the physical body. And as such, it has some special qualities. Vishuddha comes from the stem word shodhana, which means purification, to purify. So it's by the chakra is how do you say? By definition, it's the chakra of purification, which means. Now let's have a look at it from another way. Let's first have a look at some other elements, and then I will explain a little bit more about the purification element. In the second paragraph, you see this strange sentence, a short sentence that says the first vibration in the universe is sound. The second vibration is the causal world. And the third vibration is air. The first vibration in the universe is sound, is very similar to what John wrote in the Bible. The chapter of John starts with the sentence, the mysterious sentence that is not explained, that says, "First there was the Word." And then some story, according to Apostle John, starts, but there is no elaboration on that sentence. The word that is Om or Amen in Christianity, Islam people say Amin, Indian people say Om. It's all the same. It is the sound or the vibration of harmony. And it is how the universe started. The universe, before disharmony occurred, there was pure harmony. There was no universe. There was only the vibration Om. It is the same story you find in the Bible about the downfall or the fall from paradise. First there was pure Om that became disharmonious, or the harmony became disturbed by what we call subtle desire. Adam and Eve, you know the story of Adam and Eve? Adam and Eve were not a man and a woman as depicted in the Bible. It's yin and yang, or Shiva and Shakti. It's about the two energies. And the sin that they committed was not behind the tree having sex or something, as is being suggested, which has led to the great taboo of sex throughout centuries of Christianity, doing lots of damage. It's subtle desire that everybody feels. As human beings, we feel desire all the time. It's what makes our heart tick. It's what makes us achieve things in life. Desire in itself is to accomplish things. There is nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with it is when we have no control over it and it leads to evil acts. So the fall from paradise is the condition of being in total sattva is paradise, is heaven. The fall from paradise is caused by desire leading to disharmony. In this respect also, when you talk with religious people, they talk about heaven as being something up there, behind the clouds, and also something that occurs after you die. After you die, you will be judged by Saint Peter, and if you've lived a good life, you will be allowed to enter the gate of heaven. If not, you go straight to hell. After you die. Well, the reality is heaven and hell are here and now. And they're not up there and down there, they're inside us. Heaven or paradise is the condition that you're in when you're totally sattvic. It's here. And you can have a taste of paradise when you are daydreaming. And you almost start to salivate. You know that feeling? That's heaven. And you feel infinite, and you feel timeless. And you don't even feel your physical body. You're far beyond that limitation. Hell is in your belly. It's your 3 lower chakras being in turmoil. When you're confronted with anxiety, with fear, with doubt, with worry, with also ambition and ego, of course, are huge factors that cause us to experience an unpleasant condition that we call hell. So it's not outside, and it's also not after we die. And that's why it's important that we take care of it now. And that's why we learn yama and niyama. And that's why basically why we learn everything else. Because harmony is not possible if we don't guard our lower emotions and desires. That can lead to severe disharmony. So the first vibration in the universe is sound, means Om. The second vibration is the causal world. That is consciousness. The causal world is the crown chakra, is consciousness. The third vibration is air, which is the subtle element of the throat chakra. And that third vibration is air. That is Ananda, that is pure love. In the highest chakra of the physical body. Now, the third paragraph is about sound. But sound is vibration. And it says sound is everywhere, also in materials, in the form of vibration. Opening up of this chakra leads to clairaudience, as in clairvoyance. What that means is that you become sensitive towards vibrations from the environment. People call that, especially uneducated people, let me tell it all correctly. Maybe you have a grandparents who are very superstitious. Generally, you see that older generations that are quite superstitious are of the generation that did not have the benefit of thorough education as younger generations have. They often have no education or only some elementary school education. The good thing about that is their sensitivity is still intact. But it leads to superstition. You know where superstition comes from? Superstition comes from the inability to understand the vibrations that you sense. So people then start talking about ghosts and spirits. And because they don't understand it, they don't have the intellect or the intellectual development to rationalize it, it makes them scared. That is superstition. People who have enjoyed thorough education, the mental presence of those people has basically diminished the sensitivity towards those vibrations. They're totally oblivious of what is going on around in the environment. So while they have the intellect to rationalize possible vibrations that less intellectual people naturally feel, they just don't feel it. And that world just does not exist for those people. So clairaudience, in the third paragraph, is this, the sensitivity to things happening in your surrounding. The telephone phenomena, where you think of somebody and suddenly your phone rings and hey, exactly that person I was just thinking of. You catch that vibration. It's something that happens occasionally. As yogis, highly educated or not, you bring back that ability. You become more sensitive again, and it is in the throat chakra where this happens. That is what clairaudience means. The next chakra explains the purification element. It's a little bit technical. Vishuddhi chakra has 16 petals, of which the sounds represent only vowels. The petals in the other chakras represent consonants only. The vowels are the carriers of sound. They are the clearest. Consonants impair vowels by breaking their energy flow. Therefore, consonants are considered impure. All the lower chakras, in the petals, you can see in the illustration that each petal has a Sanskrit character. All the lower petals, the petals of the lower chakras contain consonants only, and this chakra distinguishes itself by having only consonants in the petals, consonants which are considered to be more pure. Hence, this center is considered the center of purification. The throat chakra is mainly responsible for expression. Not only verbal expression, but all forms of expression. So also art. Artists, real artists, have a very strong presence in the throat chakra. And I have had private classes with artists in the past, famous artists in Korea also. And I've also had less famous artists coming to class. And one thing they all have in common is that they are aware of nada. The moment that I explain about nada, oh, I know that. And I use it when I create. They go in a zone. That's what real artists do. A real artist doesn't make art to sell and make money. They end up making money because their art is good. But when they create, their mind is not on money or being successful. They just want to make something, express themselves in a way, in material form. And it ends up being wanted by people, spending money on it. They do that in a zone. And I noticed with artists, I may have mentioned it before, but maybe not in this class yet. But I noticed with artists that they are in fact yogis without the control tool of yoga. And this leads to tragedy. If you look at real artists, real artists have problems with substance abuse. They have problems, they have tragic and dramatic relationships. They very often end up dying prematurely. Amy Winehouse in her 30s. Name it. There are so many artists that die in their 30s or 40s because of the instability. So they are functioning like yogis, sensitive, conscious. It makes their work beautiful, but they often lead very tragic lives. You see in the past also with Beethoven, with Van Gogh, they led very tragic lives and often lived in poverty before their work actually became valuable, often after they die. Van Gogh specifically, a very tragic story. But there are also examples of artists who managed to canalize their energy and stay stable. One of those is Picasso, who basically secluded himself from all influences from the outside world to protect himself. And he lived up to a very high age. Another artist is a violinist that put a foreword in the book, A Light on Yoga. His name is Yehudi Menuhin. He was a very famous violinist, and he lived into his 90s also. But generally artists are unstable because they are lacking the control tools that yoga is basically providing us. Vishuddhi is also called the fountain of eternal youth, which makes me think of the stories, like in the Bible there are stories, not only in the Bible, in other holy scriptures, there are stories of people being 800, 900 years old. Abraham and Sarah had a child when they were, Sarah was in her 800s and Abraham was in his 900s. Well, I wasn't there. I don't know if there really were people that ever lived up to such high age. It is very unlikely though, because holy scriptures are all written in the same way as old yoga books are written, symbolical language. And it is symbolism to reflect that you are reading or you are dealing with special people that had a level of development that most people hadn't reached. And so to make that visible in the text, they give them an age that is unusually high. The throat chakra, the harmony of the throat chakra, or the need for the harmony in the throat chakra, is also the reason why people like to be out in nature. People like to be in a forest, in a park, although parks are man-made and maybe not as natural, but especially when you live in a city, in concrete and asphalt environment, people love to go out. Whenever they can, they will go out to the beach, to the seaside, to the mountains, to a lake. And the main reason from our perspective is that it harmonizes the throat chakra. Simply. I noticed myself very strongly when you live in a city like Amsterdam or Seoul and you were born and raised there, you don't notice anything. Until one day I went to a Christian or a Catholic retreat in Jirisan in Korea, where I stayed for a week in a completely wooden cabin. And all I did was sleep and eat. I ate twice or 3 times as much as usual, and I slept 14, 16 hours a day. I was just eating, walking, sleeping, walking, eating more, and it felt so good. It was because living in a wooden house or a wooden hut has such a deep impact on you that I was just healing there. I was just recovering there, and it made me develop the wish or the dream whenever possible. Not sure if I'm going to ever realize that in this life, but whenever possible, I want to build my own house completely out of wood. And I realized how lucky people in the US are, where still many houses are built out of wood. Try it out and you will see what a huge, it's not subtle at all. It has a huge impact. And I was very, very sad to have to go back, come down the mountain and go back to the concrete jungle. But you very quickly adapt and you just go over to the order of the day. Because normal human beings fluctuate between tamas and rajas, they need to speak even if it is against the wall, which means, of course, speaking to yourself. Many people, I do that too. We need to hear sound, like a radio or TV in the background. These days, almost everybody has a radio or TV on, even when not listening or watching. And one thing that I noticed that really stood out, coming from the Netherlands 27 years ago, is that there were TVs everywhere. And you had those little stalls in the streets where they sell tickets for the bus and the subway. You don't have them anymore, but very small. And there would be a person sitting in that stall, surrounded by candy bars and bubble gum and drinks. Very tight, but there was always room for a small TV somewhere in a corner. TVs everywhere, restaurants, bars, cafes, everywhere. It stood out to me because I came from the Netherlands and I've never seen that anywhere. People need to hear sound when the throat chakra is not harmonious. And that's a very interesting observation because it shows that most of the yoga teachers that teach modern yoga, who play music and who continuously talk during asana and even during meditation, they are not harmonious themselves. It is because they are not harmonious in the throat chakra that they cannot stand doing what they do in silence. The developmental stage is between the age of 29 and 35. I already mentioned. It's the age in which we establish ourselves, we prove ourselves, and we make a career. The people that were on the barricades between 22 and 28, often university students, standing up for ideals, they become the people that they are actually protesting against in that earlier stage. Many of those people end up in the positions that they were then protesting against, the policymakers and what have you. The Vijnana prana, that is the energy of the throat chakra. That is, we talked about this before, in the form of the vibration, the ghost spirit that people can feel. Vijnana prana is, let me tell you an experience that I had. No, you know the burglary alarm on your car, burglary alarm on your house. What does it do when somebody burgles your house or car? It makes a lot of noise. What the noise does, it creates chaos in the throat chakra. What a burglar wants when they are doing their trade is they need darkness and they need silence. That is where they can do their criminal things. When you're burgling a house and suddenly an alarm goes off, you panic. And I've seen this in practice when I one day, before I came to Korea, I was a service. I worked, I had a very interesting job. When you go to banks, hospitals, office buildings, you always see those beautiful plants there, and you wonder, How can they keep their plants so beautiful? That's the job that I did. They don't keep their plants beautiful, they don't. Most people kill their plants. So they take a contract with a company, a big company. I think I mentioned it before, Rentokil, tropical plants. Rentokil started with pest control, but then they took over a division that dealt with plants. Now they call it Initial because rent to kill, sounds a little bit weird for a company working with plants. They call it Initial. They're in Korea these days too. I would go around the whole northern province, North Holland of the Netherlands, to small and big companies and branches of banks and insurance companies and what have you, to maintenance the plant, to maintain the plants, water them, replace them when they don't look so good anymore, etc. Anyway, long story short, one day I was sitting in my car in a parking garage, basement parking garage, and I was doing a little bit of administrative work before going to the next customer. And from the corner of my eyes, I saw two guys doing a little bit, walking around the cars and a little bit suspicious, and I thought, I sat back a little bit to make myself invisible, and I was just going to see what was going to transpire. I just knew that they were up to no good. So at some point they burgled the car, they forced the lock. I don't know exactly what they did. They had some tool and they forced the lock, opened the door, and then the horn started blaring, bap, 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 and the lights flashing. Then one of those guys, the guy who opened the door, he was so panicked that they wanted to flee, of course, because of the noise. But he ran around the car 3 circles. He was so disorientated, he ran around the car 3 circles before he found his way to the exit. And that's when I realized that is the throat chakra, and that's what noise does. It causes chaos and disorientation. It's a very powerful tool. If ever you are subject to a criminal act, people sometimes think when I'm being robbed, or in worst case scenario being raped, it's better to keep silence, otherwise they will hurt me. The reality is, the more noise you make, the more likely it is that they will flee. It is dangerous, of course, but when there is lots of noise, when there is exposure, they tend to panic and try to get away from the scene. All right, that's the throat chakra. Questions about the throat chakra? Okay, let's have a short break. Then we can start with asana.